Okay, so we established that Ted Cruz tried to play Mr. Smith Goes to D.C. last night on the Senate floor. In fact, through the overnight into today, when he really wanted to be the Grinch who stole health care. But the question was his role really just a reprise of Dumb and Dumber? And Andrew, you spoke to a key player in the budget process and negotiations about this earlier today, Congresswoman Nita Lowey out in New York.
As we shift off our film theme there on the setup there, Rich, as the top Democrat on the House Appropriations Committee, any budget work must go through the desk of Westchester Congresswoman Nita Lowey. Lowey says if it was up to her and her appropriations counterpart, Republican Chairman Hal Rogers of Tennessee, the two of them could avert a shutdown of the government in a matter of minutes. But we began our talk today focused on who else Ted Cruz. I asked if his floor display will rob the process of valuable time and possibly even lead to a short-term shutdown.
Even the Republicans in the Senate are fed up with Ted Cruz. He's talking, probably trying to build up his list so he can get out there and raise money. We should be sitting down, Barbara Mikulski, a Democrat, Senator Shelby, I'm talking about the Senate now. Barbara Mikulski, a Democrat, Senator Shelby, Hal Rogers, a Republican, Nita Lowey as head of appropriations for the Democrat. We could work this out. But this is just an act trying to rally their Tea Party crowd, and they're not going to accomplish anything. And what's interesting, my Republican friends are so fed up with Ted Cruz.
The earliest now that the bill could come back to the House would be either Sunday or Monday, with the deadline approaching Monday. Are you still hopeful that we can get a deal done without the government shutting down?
I am very goal-directed. And as the top Dem on appropriations, every day I talk with Senator Mikulski or Sylvia from OMB, Office of Management and Budget, because I'd like to know where we're heading. We don't know the end of this movie yet. And we're not sure what the Republicans are going to do. The moderate Republicans are pushing to get a deal because we're wasting dollars, we're wasting time. Every day they bring us back to Washington costs over $1 million. So it's really foolish.
You were talking to the seniors here about the economic impact of a possible shutdown or a debt limit default. Can you ever, you've been in Congress a while, can you ever recall any group being this cavalier with the entire economy, potentially at risk?
Even the Republicans tried to bring a bill to the floor that would fund transportation and housing programs. They had to pull it off the floor because they couldn't even get the Republican votes for it. It was so bad, it was so low. I mentioned before the Institute of Health, the National Institutes of Health that funds all medical research. The cuts are so deep that they're worried that they can't move forward with their research projects. So this is wasting time, wasting money, cutting jobs, really damaging to the economy.
What is it about Obamacare? That makes the Republicans go to this extent? I can't recall another party going this far on any single issue.
Well, first of all, they call it Obamacare rather than the Affordable Care Act. I assume 10 years from now, Obamacare will be a very favorable expression, but they just want to defeat President Obama, and they're not accomplishing anything, and that we're wasting taxpayer dollars. We're not moving ahead creating jobs. We're not putting people to work, cutting Head Start, cutting education programs like Title I or IDEA. This is a waste of time and energy.
Last question. You mentioned a number of Republicans are frustrated with all of this, too. What's your sense with John Boehner as the Speaker? Do you think he'd like to put this behind him and actually get a deal done and not focus on something like shutting down the government?
Speaker Boehner is a very decent guy. I communicate with him all the time. He likes to do his work, and then he likes to play golf. Otherwise, he wouldn't have that incredible suntan.
Right.
He'd like to work something out. But this Hastert rule that says the majority of the majority have to be in place has to be amended, because he's got to bring this to the floor and get it done. I think what's going to happen, we'll end up with a more moderate bill, and it'll be Democrats and moderate Republicans that will support it.
All right, Andrew. Play this out here. How do you think the next 72, 96 hours go?
I think this goes through the debate process in the Senate. They pass the bill taking away the linkage.
And they're
for
intentionally
Obamacare.
leaving it so that it's on the 11th hour. They put it back on the desk of the Republicans.
They remove the defunding of Obamacare. They send it back to the House, and the House, bites the bullet and passes it without the Obamacare defunding. Probably a couple of hours, close to midnight on Monday.
Okay,
So
that means
technically the
some
government might shut down for an hour
Republicans
or
have
two.
to come on board for it. Does the Speaker come on board for it?
No, the Speaker doesn't come on board for it, but I think they're able to poach 5 or 6 votes. There were the 6 or 7 votes that they need to get it passed.
Which he'll probably orchestrate, if
Maybe
he's,
behind
if
the
he's
scenes.
any good.
Maybe behind the scenes.
To me, TJ, if Republicans want to win, they got the next 18 months. They can pick up seats in the Senate. They can pick up, at least keep their margin in the House. If they were trying to screw it up and they were trying to lose it, they would have done exactly what they've done for the last 5 days, which shows that they're not ready for prime time.
I don't know. If they pass it at the 11th hour and it gets done,
Then
they
why
will
don't
have,
people say, what was the whole point of it?
They will have made their statement, and let's not
For
forget.
what? What did they get out of it?
They would have made their statement because, again, there are people out there who just simply are convicted that this is a bad law. And so they will have made their statement and in the end passed the law.
You know
Look,
what, though,
they're not
Dominic?
the first
You know what?
ones to play with the
He might be
brinksmanship.
right, but my only point is they keep preaching to the converted. They already got those votes. The whole thing they said, remember after the election was, we got to stop going for just the white angry guy, okay? We got to get into Latino communities. We got to get into, we got to do a better job with women.
Because they forget that all the time.
What are they doing? It's like the same flipping playbook. And I'm sorry, I thought the job as a political party was to win some elections. It's great to have principle. When you know there's no chance for it to happen, then you negotiate. They don't want to do either one.
Richard, you were at the conventions, and I know you guys remember from Middle America, not from bad northern New York, from Middle America, housewives that their children are dying, and they needed a change to the health care law. Now, Americans don't see Republicans up in arms defending those women all across the country. You want to stay with the status quo, and that leaves how many million? 40 million people?
We had almost 50. It was getting to be 50. It was
Without
unsustainable.
insurance?
Now, my only thing is, the thing ain't perfect. But, TJ, again, I'm trying to take the position of, if I want to win, to Dominic's point, they could have said, listen, all right, we don't love Obamacare, but instead of defunding it, which is our first choice, because we're rational and because we believe in negotiation, here are the 5 things we want changed. They would have put the president on his heels. But instead, what do? Either you defund the whole thing, or we're going to turn off the lights in the government. And you know what? Screw your 401k out there in middle America. And by the way, you watch the market go down the tubes on Monday. They just have a terrible way to play poker.
You're not going to find a defender of many of
No,
the
I know
tactics
you're not.
of the
I just don't
Republicans.
get
Listen,
it.
I will defend some of the goofier things, depending on what day of the week it is. No, depending on what show I'm on. No, honestly, no, you're right. I will not defend a lot of that stuff, especially the communications arm of the Republican Party, which is the most dysfunctional thing in politics.
You said it was the job of the party to win elections, and it is.
Yes.
But they're worried about winning 220 elections, the House elections. Each one's looking for their own race or maybe a Senate race. Their focus isn't on the White House and isn't on the overall for the national office. That's what you're seeing here, these Republicans with their own vested interests.
Andrew, though, before the break, when you were in Tampa at the convention,
Yeah.
who was the patron saint that everyone couldn't go 20 minutes without bending a knee to his almighty image?
Well, there were a lot of
Morgan
them, but it's
Freeman.
Ronald Reagan.
Okay. And what was Ronald Reagan's rule to fellow
Thou shalt
Republicans?
not speak ill of another Republican.
Okay.
Yeah.
They don't remember that, okay? And remember the whole big tent that Ronald Reagan talked about and everything else?
But Rich, we've said it many times, Ronald Reagan doesn't win an election as a Republican today. He's
Pope?
too far
He
to
had
the
a
left.
great line. I'll even source it.
Pope Francis is
He couldn't
too
make it through a
liberal.
Republican primary
Yep.
now with his positions on social issues. All right. When we come back, this is right in TJ's wheelhouse.
Oh,
here.
yeah.
Westchester County. It's gotten some interesting attention lately because a couple of races here that have gotten people's dander up. Guns and accusations of racism, they are front and center in the Westchester County exec race. And now we'll tell you why. Stay with us. We'll be back with that after this.